Welcome to the 10 with Tim, and this is talking about investing in stakeholders. I've got one of my stakeholders here, my Labrador puppy. I hope you don't mind me sitting here in my yard with my dog to talk about stakeholders, but frankly I've been stuck in a boardroom for the last 2 days doing a tender response, so I need some outdoor time and I need a haircut, hence the hat. Hey Frida. But look, what I wanted to talk to you about this morning was a little bit more detail about stakeholders. And as part of this series of who you can invest in, or who you should invest in, arguably stakeholders is one of the trickiest to try and discuss, even in 10 minutes, because it's such a vastly complex landscape of different parties and influences. Hello, Frida. And yeah, it's very, very variable, stakeholder group by stakeholder group. So I'm just going to try and subdivide them very briefly and then talk quickly about how I would suggest you could engage and invest in each of them, and we'll see how we go. So first of all is customers, then we're going to talk about suppliers, then we're going to talk about the communities around where you work, and then the sort of global community that you're choosing to interact with and contribute to. So customers, first of all, I think that this is the one which would make the most sense to most leaders watching this, that investing in your customers is going to get a demonstrable return. I think the question is, how do you do it? And how do you do it without spending time, energy and resources that for a lot of businesses and organisations right now are in scarce supply? And for me, this really, which is, it's going to be consistent with suppliers, it's all about connecting. It's all about engaging and having a curious or curiosity-led dialogue around how can you help them and how can they help you. And if you can do that, if you can enter into this sort of sincere dialogue and ask those questions, and let's just group customers and suppliers together and say, how can we help you, our customers? How can we help you, our suppliers? How can you help us? And it's not necessarily going to be as obvious as a transactional exchange. There might be other ways. There might be partnerships, there might be collaborations, there might be networking opportunities, there might be some sort of co-created journey that you haven't been on before. But I think it all comes down to that fundamental root point is the question born out of curiosity, and the question around serving one another, helping one another, working together. And certainly what I've seen is the more successful leaders that I know, that I work with, the more successful organisations that I know, that I partner with, they're very good at this. They're very good at asking those questions of their customers and suppliers. And what they really try to do very, very little of is tell. And they don't do very much talking at, they do a lot more talking with. So there we go, it's 3 minutes. Let's see if we can keep these next two groups to a similar time frame and we'll be doing well. So next, let's talk about communities where you work. And this has been a really interesting interaction, watching this shift and change through these past 6 months of COVID. Certainly in Australia, we're now referring in September 2020 to 6 months of COVID since March. Because where people work and the communities that they interact with, obviously that's changed a lot. A lot of people are now working around home, if not in home. They've sought out local workspaces, co-shares, collaboration forums, whatever works, if not just a space in their home. And then they're interacting with their communities much more frequently during the workday because they're not commuting away from them. Now, whether or not this becomes a permanent shift or it's a moment in time that gets reflected on, time will tell. But I think whether you are sitting in a commercial space downtown, or you're in a business park, again in a commercial space, a conventional office, or you've had flexible work arrangements for a long time, there is still a community around you that you can interact with, that you can be curious about, and you can ask these questions about. I mean, I've had a lot of conversations in the past few months with the cafe owners, with the commercial environment-driven suppliers, and a lot of them are seeing interesting and varied interactions with people. And again, the curiosity-born interactions are the ones that are being rewarded with the strongest relationships. So I think it's a common dynamic about curiosity drives a genuine and a meaningful and a powerful relationship which will be rewarded. I'm doing pretty well. And then finally, I think the global community. I mean, this is obviously vast, and it really is one of sort of picking a niche rather than saying, well, everyone in the world is my community, as much as you could contend that that's true. But pick a part of a global community to contribute to. I mean, at 4i, we're part of a global community called B1G1, which is a giving aggregator of all kinds of businesses of all shapes and sort of walks of life, who essentially give something so that something amazing happens in the world every time you do something. You make a sale or you make a transaction. And we found an enormous amount of benefit from being in that community in terms of motivation, in terms of sustaining output, but also something as simple as the elementary business connection. Sorry, dog's trying to eat the mic. And sort of where do you get to with that? There's a lot I hope will be useful, but moreover, I think it's just a question of how do you feel about the idea of investing in your stakeholders? And if you feel positive, as I would encourage you to do, then the next question is, how do I engage with them? And then really, what is the first question I ask? And it may be as simple as the classic Australian colloquialism, how are you going? Or how are you feeling? Or what's the world like for you right now? And then from there, it is into the, what can I do for you? What can you do for me? What can we do for the world together? And on from there. So look, I hope all of this has been helpful. I appreciate this is a bit of a wander in the metaphorical woods, but it's a vast and expansive topic, but one that I think is really, really important to engage with. So I hope that this will be of interest to you, and I look forward to any thoughts and feedback that you might have. And here comes the wind, so it's probably a good time to wrap it up. See you soon. If you've enjoyed any of the ideas I've shared today, you can find more of the Time with Tim and 10 with Tim at 4ileadership.com.